The Mass Effect series is one of the most beloved RPG series, and the recent announcement of an upcoming Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which will be a remaster of the original trilogy, has me really itching to play these games again. I was so excited I couldn't wait for the Legendary Edition to be released. I decided to give the original Mass Effect a facelift with some of the mods available today, and head back through the trilogy, breaking down one game at a time, remembering what we loved about the games and maybe some of the things that we didn't. This series could have gone nowhere if it wasn't for the strength of the first game, which has one of the best action-packed stories in role-playing games, and it beautifully introduces us to a whole new universe that is not only thought-provoking and expansive, but is delivered to the player in such a smooth and seamless way. Mass Effect absorbs you in its universe. Its story resonates with the player, its hero is remembered as one of the best. Your companions begin a journey that will culminate in trilogy-long friendships, and the villain is memorable and meaningful. The first part of the game I want to touch upon is the story. And this won't be a recap of the story, but it will be a breakdown of what I think really hooks us into this story. So I will warn you now that this video will probably contain a few spoilers about the original Mass Effect and the Mass Effect Trilogy. The game begins with you, Commander Shepard, first officer of the Alliance vessel Normandy. The game starts off its world building not directly telling you what is going on, but builds some mystery and intrigue through conversation. You know that you are taking the most advanced ship in the Alliance fleet to check on a small human colony on a planet known as Eden Prime. You also know that you are bringing along an elite commando of an alien species, a Spectre, a member of the Council's Special Tactics and Reconnaissance Division, which are kind of like secret agents. Everyone seems rather tense about this Turian being on board, and we learn that there had been a small war between humans and Turians when humans first activated an alien device near Pluto known as a mass relay. If we want to learn more about these events, in the game there is a fully voiced codex that will quickly explain some backstory to these events, but it shouldn't really be needed as the voice acting is generally of high quality throughout the game, and a lot of subtext is learned through how the characters interact with each other. We soon learn that this is no ordinary shakedown run. We are being sent to recover a rare artifact from an extinct race that has built all the lovely technology we use to skip around the galaxy. This is also a chance to see how humans perform. We learn the Spectre Nihilus is here to evaluate my performance and maybe recruit me as the first human Spectre. We learn here that humanity is a relatively new species to this galactic community, and as a result has little power or authority, but we do garner interest and curiosity, but are looked down on as hot-headed. So we know that this is a very historic and important mission for humanity to be included on. However, when we get to Eden Prime, we find that the colony and the dig site is being attacked by a synthetic race known as the Geth that hadn't been seen for a very long time. We are quickly forced into action, losing a crew member early on and trying to figure out what is going on here. Meanwhile, Nihilus has gone ahead to secure the beacon and runs into another Turian Spectre named Saren, who he seems to trust, although he questions why Saren is on Eden Prime. And Saren quickly responds by killing Nihilus, revealing him as a rogue Spectre. When you soon find the body of Nihilus, a human dock worker who had been hiding tells you what happens, and you immediately head toward this Prothean artifact. When you reach it, it begins to power up and pull one of your soldiers towards it, and you throw yourself in the way. This artifact grabs you and fills your mind with jumbled images that overload your brain and you pass out, waking on the ship to find that the artifact has been destroyed. The Geth are back after many years, that Nihilus is dead, and the only evidence you have is hearsay that the Council's best operative has gone rogue and has murdered another Spectre. Not only this, We learn Saren knows you used the Prothean artifact and is angered and wants you dead. Boom! What an intro to our story. Let's take a closer look at what happened here. It doesn't take long for the world to show us that humanity is an underdog, looked down upon. Other races don't think we are ready to take an important role in the galaxy. The underdog role is very powerful in gaming and storytelling, and it's presented in a fashion that every person can get behind. It's humanity as a race that's facing this prejudice, and we as proud humans want to prove our worth. The game plays on our emotions to invest us into the story, and it works. The world gets built around us through dialogue. There is a lot of exposition that happens in the early parts of the game, but it is very smoothly given through how these characters all interact. Your pilot Joker gives attitude about the Spectre. Your navigator speaks to you about the uncertainty of non-humans on board. Nihilus and Captain Anderson give you context about humanity's role in the galaxy and the potential to become a Spectre, a special agent in space that can play hard and fast with the rules. It's enticing. Then once the action starts, we are quickly introduced to our villain, and he immediately impacts our character and gives us a mystery into his motivation. This is a real step up from Knights of the Old Republic, where we really don't care about our villain until the midway point, and they really don't do anything to develop him, and they rely on the history of the Star Wars license to supply all the context. Well, they don't have that luxury here, and it is a blessing. I have spoken in other videos about how it is important for the hero to interact early on with the villain because it connects the two to each other from the beginning. It adds weight, and Mass Effect does a great job here. The murder of Nihilus immediately throws up roadblocks for Shepard. It makes their mission a failure, puts your underdog character into even a bigger hole to start the game. We don't know Saren's motivations as of yet. We know he has a strange spaceship and is communicating with some strange alien female. We know that he's a cold-blooded killer and he's in humanity's way. This early interaction goes a long way in making the villain memorable, and he only gets more intriguing and better from this point. Now, not only are we given a mystery regarding the main villain's motivation, but we are also given a mystery surrounding this ancient Prothean beacon. The vision Shepard receives is disturbing, and it's a jumbled mess, and we want to see why it was so important for Saren to get his hands on the beacon and why he would kill for it. The story has already shown itself to be interesting, multifaceted, and taking place within a fully realized world that takes itself seriously, and as a result seems fully believable. This is what really pulls the player into the game. It isn't the gameplay, the classes, or the RPG leveling system that hook you. It's that solid first chapter and the experience with the story. While the first chapter is action-packed and intense, the game then settles down a bit once you move to the Citadel to talk to the Council about what happened on Eden Prime. The action takes a back seat, and the Citadel section is long and mostly expressed through dialogue. The Citadel section really rounds out your mission, explains more about the world, and most importantly, it fills out almost the entire cast of characters you take as your crew or potential party members. I tend to dislike how in a lot of games you might not get some of your favorite party members until the end of the game. In Knights of the Old Republic, depending on which order you visit planets, you might not get the excellent HK-47 or Jolie Bindo until almost the end of the game. In Mass Effect, by the time you leave the Citadel, you will have 5 of the 6 possible companions with you on your journey, and the 6th is highlighted in a mission that allows you to quickly pick her up to add to the team. What this allows the game to do is start building your relationship with your crew early on, and getting to know them. And what a cast of characters! Although not every party member gets fully realized in this first game, and you may not be able to take all the relationships as far as you might like them, they are still a very memorable cast. The Citadel section has the Council unable to side with you, as there is no evidence that Saren was even on Eden Prime, and he hides behind the argument that Captain Anderson and the humans are simply after him to paint him in a negative light, as you learn that Anderson and Saren have had a difficult past. You are able to eventually find evidence, and it leads you to adding Tali, Garrus Vakarian, and Rex to your crew. The addition of a Krogan, a Quarian, and a Turian to your crew allows you to learn more about how the races are interconnected as you progress through conversations, how the Geth were constructed by the Quarians, and then once they were gaining true artificial intelligence, they attempted to wipe them out, but failed. How the Krogan were necessary to fight the Rachni invasion, but when they were procreating too quickly, they were given a virus designed by the Solarians to make only 1 in every 1,000 births viable. The Mass Effect universe was built on these interconnected dynamics, and it makes for a meaningful universe. By the time you leave the Citadel, you have your own crew. Captain Anderson steps down and the Human Alliance give you their best ship, and you are given Spectre status, becoming the first human Spectre, and you are given free reign to unravel Saren's plot, which we understand to be related to the Prothean extinction, which we believe involved a mystery race known only as the Reapers. The rest of the story unfolds as you visit different planets around the galaxy, gathering information and learning more about Saren's plot as you go. Each planet giving you more and more info as you learn that wherever Saren goes, the people he interacts with tend to become indoctrinated by him, following him blindly despite their previous beliefs. He has indoctrinated a powerful Asari matriarch who is helping him in developing his army by trying to bring back the Rachni horde. He also has completed work on curing the Krogan genophage so he can produce an army of Krogan. This eventually leads to the discovery that it isn't actually Saren that is doing this of his own free will, but he himself is also a member of the indoctrinated, and it turns out that it is his ship, Sovereign, that is actually masterminding the whole plot, slowly warping the minds of those it comes in consistent contact with to do its bidding. That Sovereign is actually a Reaper, and the Reapers were the ones that had created the mass relays and the Citadel, that they are basically farming and harvesting the civilizations that evolve in our galaxy, allowing them to reach a certain level of development before wiping them out and beginning the cycle anew. On the first playthrough, this is a mind-blowing reveal. I found this reveal much more impactful than the reveal in Knights of the Old Republic, and it sets up your final confrontation with Saren, which, if you are maxed out in Charm or Intimidate, you are able to reach his true mind without combat and convince him he's being manipulated, where he will kill himself for the good of the galaxy. Eventually, you are able to come together and destroy Sovereign and slow down the Reaper invasion for a time being. The game finishes with you resolving your quest, but knowing that the long-term threat still remains and leaves the game set up perfectly for its sequels. In the climax of the game, you also make some really key decisions that will have implications on the galaxy going forward. It's a level of freedom that many gamers had never experienced before, as we were then able to carry our save games forward into the next adventure. I am going to take some time here to discuss your character, Commander Shepard, because we start to learn more about Shepard during this time spent on the Citadel, and we are given freedom in how we will develop our Shepard's personality. Unlike Knights of the Old Republic, where you had one meter with good and evil on opposite spectrums, Mass Effect gives you two separate bars called Paragon and Renegade, which feel independently of each other and unlock special dialogue options the more they get filled. The Paragon options tend to follow closer along the lines of a stock hero character that is fighting against all injustice and tries not to step on too many toes when getting things done. They are more polite in their interactions and less prone to violent outbursts to get results. The renegade options are more along the lines of an anti-hero. Sometimes they are a little on the ridiculous side. At the start of the story, one character with obvious mental health issues is having an episode, and the renegade option has your shepherd punch them in the face and knock them out.
Same coin.
Is it madness to see the future? To see the destruction rushing towards us? To understand there is no escape? No hope? No. I am not mad. I'm the only sane one left.
I gave him an extra dose of his meds after the attack. Say goodnight, Manuel.
You cannot silence the truth. My voice must be heard.
Oh my god! What did you do?
The renegade options aren't necessarily evil, but renegade shepherd likes to use their fists, likes to get down to business right away, and tends to put humans above other species. For this review, I did 2 playthroughs, one as a full Paragon male shepherd and one as a female shepherd who had almost full renegade, and was also pretty high in Paragon. I just couldn't bring myself to belittle my crew or show a total lack of compassion in all situations. I honestly much preferred my mixed bag FemShep playthrough. She was a hard ass with some heart, and although I didn't gain the ability to max out my intimidation tree for dialogue options, I was still very satisfied with how she turned out. I do like how these 2 separate meters work because it did allow me to build a hard ass character with some genuine compassion for those close to her. Something that I don't think is possible with a 1 meter option like Knights of the Old Republic. The D&D system would have probably just called my character Chaotic Good. So as Shepard is going around the station shaping their personality, we learn that Shepard is quite well known around the Citadel even before they are granted Spectre status. At the beginning of the game, you are given 3 options on Shepard's backstory, and no matter which one you pick, it seems that most of the people you come in contact with have heard your story. You inspire those who know you, and you have a reputation as a person that can get the job done, which is why I guess so many powerful people approach you for help. You get to build on this reputation as you play, and really you can become a force that fights for the good of the galaxy, or you can be a force that fights for the good of humanity. We also get a great moment before we head out on a mission where we get to formulate one of those epic rousing speeches that motivates everyone like you would see in a movie, and I really like this part, probably because I'm a sucker who always gets emotionally invested in these kind of speeches. The voice acting for both male and female Shepard is really well done, and having a character that is fully voiced I find really helps you to align yourself with the character and buy into the game, the story, and the world.
This is Commander Shepard speaking. We have our orders. Find Saren before he finds the conduit. I won't lie to you, crew. This mission isn't going to be easy. For too long, our species has stood apart from the others. Now it's time for us to step up and do our part for the rest of the galaxy. Time to show them what humans are made of. Our enemy knows we're coming. When we go into the Traverse, Saren's followers will be waiting for us. But we'll be ready for them, too. This is the most important mission any of us have ever been on. The fate of an entire galaxy is at stake. We will stop Saren, no matter what the cost.
Your companions that join you along the way are a big part of the game, and they all have personal stories to tell that attach them to either the story or Shepard. Caden is on your crew from the start. He is loyal and struggles with his past being put through a ruthless biotic program. Ashley has a long-standing military family, but her grandfather is also the person that capitulated to the Turians in the First Contact War. Garrus wants to see Saren put in his place for betraying the Council and his race, leaving his post at CSEC to help you. Rex is a mercenary who joins your fight and wants to restore his species to the glory it once had as he searches for a cure for the genophage, but he also realizes most Krogan would rather go out and die in battle than cure the genophage, having to kill his father in such a disagreement. Liara is a young Asari who has been studying the Protheans and is also the daughter of the indoctrinated Asari matriarch Benezia. And then we have Tali, the young Quarian that is out on her pilgrimage, looking to bring something back of value to the Quarian flotilla. We also have some side characters along for the ride that are important, but they are not party members, like your pilot, Joker, the doctor, Dr. Chakwas, and your navigator, Exo Presley, although these side characters aren't fleshed out to the same degree as your party members are. After every major mission, more dialogue options with your party are unlocked, and it was always fun to explore the Normandy and learn more about your newfound crew. In the first game, there are 2 romance options available as well for either male or female shepherd. The obvious ones are Ashley for male shep and Caden for fem shep, and neither of these are very appealing and both seem to be kind of shoved at you. The other option for either shep is Liara, as she belongs to a species that only has one gender and they have the ability to mate with other species, and it is actually their goal to mate with different species as it strengthens the Asari genetics, and mating within the species is actually frowned upon. The Asari are a cool species to have as a focal point of the series, and the relationship with Liara is the most unique and interesting one to pursue. In my playthroughs for this video, male Shep did not engage in romance with anyone, and female Shepherd ended up in a romance with Liara. Although the relationships I wanted to pursue were Garrus and Tali, but we will see those develop in future Mass Effect games. Overall, your companions have fun stories to explore, but the romance options overall are pretty lackluster. Some of your companions do have some quests that you are able to do for them. Side quests in this game, for the most part, are rather lackluster and underdeveloped, especially when looking back at this game in 2020. Although they do make the galaxy feel a lot bigger, they tend to send you to a sector of the galaxy requiring you to find a solar system and investigate the planets within. Generally on one of the planets you will be able to land the Mako and investigate to find some sort of facility, which are usually quite small but full of enemies. None of the side quests really stand out from one another, and none of them are very memorable apart from one mission where you talk down a poor woman raised and abused by slavers from committing suicide. That is one of the side missions that had some depth to it, and I wish there would have been more like it. I will admit that navigating the galactic navigation menu to get to the planets for most of the side quests did make the universe seem really big. Unfortunately, it does seem rather empty as well. Definitely seems like an afterthought, especially once we get into Mass Effect 2, which has some very memorable companion quests. The gameplay is a bit of a mixed bag overall. There are a lot of things to speak about. The game allows you to play as one of 6 classes, basically a full-on soldier, an engineer, or a biotic. Then it also allows for hybrids, like the soldier NG, soldier biotic, or NG biotic. I have played through the game probably 5 times in total, and I have only ever been a soldier or the Vanguard, which is the hybrid soldier biotic class. I have found the game easily plays the best when I'm dealing out a majority of the pain with my guns, and I have my squad members backing me up. The engineering skill set seems to be the weakest to me, and I generally avoided it and just included Tali in my party in order to hack into the higher level systems. The classes aren't especially exciting, although some of the biotic abilities are fun to use. The game features the highest implementation of RPG elements out of any of the Mass Effect games, with levels coming quickly, and you are then able to put the skill points you earn into a wide array of skills. I don't know how impactful the system really is, as you do get to spend a lot of points, but it also doesn't seem like the points make a drastic difference. As you put points into a skill, there are breakpoints, which either unlock a new skill or give you an upgraded version of that ability. Despite the fact that each skill point generally only made a small difference as you leveled, I found that it was satisfying, especially since you were given several skill points each time you leveled. You were also able to skill up your companions as well, so you were able to build yourself a support team. You could dump points into Shepard's combat skills, and then have other characters able to support you with their hacking or first aid abilities, while Shepard does a majority of the damage. This is how I have always tended to play the Mass Effect games, and I find it very hard to break away from that style even if there are other options. The combat in the game isn't especially tight. It's a duck and cover system that isn't overly smooth. You tend to leave your head open for shots when ducking behind cover, and you squat awkwardly. The aiming reticule is represented by a large circle, and guns tend to spray bullets fairly widely. Guns don't require reloads in this game, but they do overheat, so that is generally how combat is managed, as you can pop out and shoot a few times before your gun starts to overheat and you need to hide. Although you do gain abilities that allow your gun to fire more accurately and without near as much heat, that by the end of the game is able to be used pretty consistently over and over, allowing for some pretty ridiculous shootouts where you can fire your gun almost non-stop for much longer than you generally can in any other game. The result is a combat system that is serviceable, but not very satisfying. The game is carried by its characters and its story much more than by its combat, although I generally wasn't frustrated by the system itself, but it definitely improves as the series goes along. The inventory is also a bit of a nightmare. You never have to stop and loot bodies. Inventory items kind of just appear in your inventory after you kill someone, and you have to choose whether to keep them or turn them into Omnigel to be used to repair your all-terrain vehicle or to unlock or hack items along the way. If you want to bypass the little mini-game attempt, or if you fail on the first attempt, you can use Omnigel. However, the lack of meaningful vendors in the game means you tend to get overloaded with items and need to stop along the way to turn them into Omnigel. And if you go over the 150 item level cap, you have to turn any new items in your inventory into Omnigel, rather than letting you go through what is currently in inventory and letting you scrap the items with the lowest value or level of power. Plus, you are never given a great inventory screen. You might have almost no guns in your inventory and be near the cap due to the fact that ammo and gun upgrades are found in a different part of the inventory screen and as a result are easily forgotten. The inventory in general was easily the most frustrating part of the game, although the game was semi-decent at letting you know when your inventory was almost full. Outside of combat, dialogue is the other biggest component of the game. It is done with a dialogue wheel that gives you some keywords or short sentence options on how you want to respond in conversation. Generally, Paragon options are near the top and Renegade options are near the bottom. It is once again a serviceable system, but not knowing what your character is actually going to say is a bit of a bummer, especially when you choose what seems to be an edgy answer and the game responds with something generic, or sometimes the Paragon or Renegade choice will give you the exact same response either way. If your Charm or Intimidate skills allow you to give a specific Paragon or Renegade answer, they will be highlighted in blue or red respectively. These options will generally get agreement out of whoever you are speaking with and move the conversation forward. A lot of the time as a player, you will instantly realize that this is a conversation out and allow you to get what you wanted in the situation, so when these pop up, it seems reasonable that you would use them. The system does work well and reduce the amount of times you have to spend reading in game for the most part, but it is a bit of a wonky system at times. I understand why it was used. The game contains a ton of dialogue. It was one of the first games I remember where everything is pretty much fully voiced. Your character, all side characters, the main part of the codex. In all, it was said that the game had equivalent of 20 movies worth of dialogue. In the end, I would have preferred knowing what my character was going to say instead of having to make educated guesses. The last piece of gameplay to talk about is driving the unwieldy Mako. A lot has been said over the years about driving the Mako, the Normandy's ATV, which they drop on a planet and has to be used on nearly every world you land on at one point or another. The Mako controls like garbage. Its weapons are slow to recharge and can't hit anything that is too close to the vehicle. As a result, you spend a lot of time engaged in long-range combat as you struggle to control the vehicle. doesn't help that outside of the main story planets, the rest of the planets you land on are full of craters and ridges, making the vehicle difficult to control, and nearly every side quest involves you investigating some random planet's surface in order to find a base or some item. The Mako is also a frustrating part of the game, but I found it less frustrating than the inventory screen. Although I did laugh, as it is almost impossible to really flip the Mako, and if it does, the thrusters can flip it right around. But in one cutscene near the end of the game, the crew has to abandon the Mako as it gets flipped upside down. The Mako was always a bit of a laughingstock in the game, even at release, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I had remembered it. It's an example of a solid idea with rather poor execution. It's interesting to note that the gameplay in Mass Effect across the board is pretty much mediocre at best. However, the story and characters are so engaging and the world so much fun to be a part of that people not only look past these systems, but still put this game very high up on their lists of all-time greats. It's a testament to just how great the writing in the game is. The game isn't overly long either. When I moved through the game fairly quickly, I finished in roughly 12 hours. When I slowed down a bit and did a good chunk of side quest, it was closer to 15 or 16 hours. But the game is perfectly fine without any extra padding. It would suffer if you added it. If the story is good enough and winds itself up in 12 hours, that is not a bad thing in cases where extending the action just for the sake of extending the action almost always distracts from the game. I did play through the game with enhanced textures and graphics overall, so I can't really speak too much about how the original graphics for the game are, other than the fact the game was and still is very cinematic. However, the sound and music in the game is top notch, despite the fact the music seems to have been developed by two different people, Jack Wall and Sam Hulick for the most part. The soundtrack is excellent and the music definitely heightens nearly every set piece in the game. It is a well done and memorable soundtrack featuring mostly orchestral and electronic sounds. I love the fact that it merges a very organic sound with a very electronic sound, which mirrors the universe of Mass Effect as the organic races of the galaxy fight against the synthetic Geth and the Reapers. Despite the fact that this game does have some underwhelming gameplay, does not change the fact that at the end of this game, you are fully ready to dive into a sequel, and when the second Mass Effect was announced, I remember being excited for it in a way that might only be matched by the release of Cyberpunk 2077 this year. It didn't matter if the gameplay was mediocre, the story was gripping, meaningful, and engaging, and the world was well-rounded, had a nice intertwined history, and was really a high point for BioWare. I plan on covering the second Mass Effect game soon, so if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, then please like this video and subscribe to the page. I have the CRPG Legends homepage, Patreon page, and Twitch streams all linked below. So please, if you want to hear more from me or if you would like to make a contribution to the page, please do so. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.